We will now move on to the next item on our agenda. And yes, there is another item. It is 1439 Park Avenue. It's a request for a conditional use permit to install a wireless telecommunications facility within a residential zoning district on a joint utility pole in the public right-of-way per sections 12220 and 1284.160 of the San Bruno zoning ordinance. Sounds vaguely familiar. Staff report, please.
We could go into a full staff report, but I think we've heard what your recommendations are, and since this is a similar application, I would ask the chair if you would like to hear a staff report right now, or would you prefer just to have a similar recommendation for continuation based on that last discussion?
Well,
and public hearing as well.
Thank you very much, yes. I don't really think that we need to have another staff report on pretty much the exact same thing, only with a different block. I'm okay with that. The applicant, though, do you need to add anything into this 1439 Park Avenue application, or are you, it's pretty much the same as the last one, or?
Yeah, I was just going to go through the alternate site analysis.
I would appreciate that.
Okay,
yeah,
certainly,
you
please.
got to do that.
So we will ask the applicant, forget the staff report.
Through the chair,
Yes, Commissioner.
I think the biggest difference between these two sites is that they started construction at Niles, and this one, the construction hasn't started.
That's true. Thank you. Okay.
So I just wanted to go quickly through the alternate site analysis for Park Avenue. This is the proposed facility. There were 5 alternates examined. Next slide. The first, so this is the current coverage for this area of San Bruno. Right now, we're limited to in-vehicle coverage, and the proposed facility is to improve in-building coverage, as shown on the next slide. So this is the proposed coverage area. Next slide. So the first alternate that we looked at was Grundy Park. Next slide. So the proposal for this site would be a new pole structure in the park at a height of 50 feet. For this facility, we would utilize larger equipment cabinets, and this was not selected as the new pole would be installed, and with the proposed facility, we're utilizing an existing structure with smaller equipment on the pole. The next site.
Excuse me, through the chair, I'd like to ask a question. What is the reason you didn't like Grundy Park?
We would be required to install a new pole structure.
Oh, you can't use the power pole that's...
Unfortunately not, and I'll go through that. There's the PG&E requirements for installing facilities on that pole, on those poles aren't met, and I'll be going through that.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. I just want to make sure I understood that.
Presentation, then we can ask questions after that.
So the next site we looked at was the Peninsula Christian Fellowship Church property at 599 Cedar Avenue. Next. So this site, we proposed a new pole structure at 50 feet, and this is the proposed coverage. So approximately 66% of the target area is not met. In addition, this site was not selected as there was the possibility of a development on the parcel for housing. We looked at City Hall. Next slide. So we looked at a 50-foot pole at this site. Unfortunately, none of the coverage area is met. In addition, it's a little bit too close to the existing site, 2 sites, and causes a bit of overlap. Fourth site we looked at was the AT&T office building, a new 50-foot pole. So this site, this is the proposed coverage at that site, so none of the proposed coverage is met, and it has some overlap with the existing site at Cherry Avenue. We looked at the Bay Hill Shopping Center site, a new 50-foot pole. So similarly, this overlaps with the existing site at 900 Cherry Avenue and also doesn't meet any of the coverage objectives. So these are the poles that we investigated in the park. This pole has that electrical riser that prevents installation of equipment. The pole, there's another pole we looked at, which has cross arms on it. And then in addition, we did look at another pole that was, a query was made by one of the neighbors. The pole is actually located in their rear yard, so there were some access issues. And in addition, that pole had cross arms on it, so that prevented us from locating on it. So this is the proposed site. We're going to attach to the top, antenna screened with a radome, and the equipment on the pole painted to match. And that concludes my presentation.
Through the chair. Aren't there cross arms on that pole that you selected?
Not the current pole. Not the cross arms, two cross arms and perpendicular to each other.
Oh, so when you say cross arms, before you meant double cross
Yeah.
arms.
Right.
Okay, just trying to understand this. Thank you.
Through the chair,
Commissioner Mishra.
I have a question for the applicant. Trying to put this as delicately as possible. What's annoying me in both presentations is the fact that, given some planning analysis, that this coverage that you're trying to get is within 50, 100 feet of this location. And the investigative team that picked these alternate locations cannot provide coverage to the space that you've already picked. It's annoying me to my bones. I feel that the team is actually looking at the problem as a engineer, whereas we're trying to look for a solution as an architect. We are thinking of the solution as, you have a proposal to make this site better. If you start looking at locations 3/4 of a mile away, you are not satisfying the problem. We agree that you may have a problem here, that you may have to enhance the site capabilities. So if we just agree that you're going to stick within 50 feet of this location and give us solutions based on design from an architect's perspective versus design from an engineer's perspective, the whole classic question of form versus function is what we're concerned about. It's annoying me when I see diagrams that, it's not going to satisfy the requirements of the proposal. And it's been consistent with this proposal and the one proposal before this, or application before this. We understand that you may want to increase the coverage in this location, but we're looking for an aesthetic resolution to the problem. These 5 sites really don't mean much to us when they don't satisfy the core function or the core reason for your making this proposal.
These were sites that we were directed to look at by staff and by the commission. So I'm a little, these are sites that we would not have considered we didn't consider for our search area because we knew they did not meet our objective. But we were directed specifically to look at other locations along San Bruno Avenue that may meet, or that are viable.
Mm-hmm.
And these, unfortunately, were the only 2 viable sites, or sites that may support a viable facility, but unfortunately, they don't meet the objective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions of the applicant?
Through the chair. I'm anxious to get to the public hearing, but I have to say that it's very distressing that there was not the proposal to put a separate new pole on the perimeter of Grundy Park, because that clearly would have met what you're looking for in terms of coverage, and it would be very, very, very much less in the public view. Matter of fact, the one pole that you rejected because of the PG&E configuration, you can hardly see that pole. There's so many trees around it. So if you had put was there a particular reason you didn't consider a proposal to put a new pole there?
We felt that the current design was less obtrusive than building a new pole in the park.
Oh, the current design of putting it on the right on Park Avenue?
Correct.
I'm confounded trying to understand. I cannot understand that answer, but thank you.
Chair,
That'll be
also
enough.
just a point of reference for you guys, if it does get continued, there is a city-owned lot about a half a block away from here, that's a pump station,
Oh, yeah.
that's.
Very close.
That's all screened off and everything, real good access, all paved access from 2 streets, so just, I mean, in case it does get continued.
Through the chair.
Yes.
So,
City Attorney.
unfortunately, one note of caution on this, which is, I think it's appropriate to direct the applicant to look at all viable, reasonable alternatives. And in a way, as Commissioner Mishra suggested, you have to leave it up to them to figure out which ones work for them both from a engineering standpoint, but for you for aesthetic purposes. Where I'm going to say you need to be a little bit cautious is directing them to look at any publicly owned facilities. It may be something that they decide that they want to explore, but the issue there is whether the city agrees to allow them to do it. And in all cases so far, the city has required a lease with payment. So what I'm concerned about is the commission not leaving the city open to an argument that the applicant could make that you were directing the applicant to a city-owned facility in order to generate the revenue from that. Now, there are arguments out there that maybe that some cities are making that maybe they have to when they're in the public right-of-way. Those are not clear. But so I would just be a little bit cautious there.
Thank you.
Okay, through the chair. On that point, when I said put it in Grundy Park, I don't necessarily mean in Grundy Park. It could be on the borderline between the park and the private residence. It could be in the private residence's backyard, or all in Grundy Park. All I'm saying is that area is so heavily vegetated that I suspect no one would even object to your configuration of equipment that you're presenting here because it'd be almost invisible. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of the applicant from the commissioners?
Through the chair.
Commissioner Biasotti.
Once again, I'll ask that same question. What compelling reason is there that we should allow you to put something up that we've required everybody else to do something different? You know, we've required stealthing of everybody else, and you even say here in this report that it would work for that site. What compelling reason is there for us to allow you to do this when we've had to have everyone else conform?
T-Mobile feels that this facility on the joint pole is a stealth design that meets our coverage objective, the least obtrusive design for this coverage target area.
Thank you. Are there any other questions that we're going to?
Okay.
Yeah,
Could we have
sure.
the public hearing?
We could if there's no more questions of the commissioners from the applicant. Okay, seeing none, I will now open up a public hearing. Anybody from the public, please come up to the microphone. Please state your name and your street.
Charles Penpraise, 1413 Park Avenue. And when I'm looking at the pictures shown of the various places that T-Mobile had picked, it seemed to me that there wasn't any of them that there was coverage, missing everywhere, that they couldn't cover everything. They're going to be back next year for a few more of these poles. They're going to be back the year after that for some more. This is going to go on and on, If I can address two things. Exhibit H shows on the proposal at 1439 Park Avenue, this humongous cabinet in the front of, on somebody's front lawn. This is their alternative method to putting their equipment on the pole.
Excuse me,
Exhibit
sir,
H.
I want to locate Exhibit H.
Sure.
Can
Yeah,
you
it's
give
a-
us a second here? Is it a color picture or is it a drawing?
It's a proposal
Oh,
before
okay.
and after.
Okay, thank you.
Towards the back of the packet.
So this is the size of something that they're trying, their alternative to putting the equipment on the pole. In front
Oh,
of-
yeah,
In front of your house.
oh, yeah.
I mean, this thing's huge. It's higher than the fence next door. If they could move this back into the park, then they could put a cyclone fence around this thing to where, you know, the kids couldn't get at it. Fence it off and put a lock gate on it. I could be all right with that. That'd be hidden back there. But this thing here is ridiculous. Then their other comment was that they couldn't go above cross members on a telephone pole. But if you look at it, Exhibit G, they could do it in Atherton.
Yeah, but I think, just to answer your question, I believe that configuration is where the pole is, when they're talking about having the what are we calling those, the extensions or whatever you wanna,
Or cross arm.
cross arms, they're going the same direction versus having one going perpendicular and one going the other way, which makes it very difficult for anybody to climb up and over. If they're both going in the same direction, then it's not an issue for a tech to climb up, if I'm not mistaken, is that? Just so that we understand where you're coming from, and you understand what they're referring to as far as the cross arms are concerned.
Well, you know,
I'm just trying to point out what, you know,
PG&E
what we're
very
looking at.
seldom climbs poles anymore. They go up in a bucket now.
Right.
I mean, it's, you know, it's not something that's insurmountable.
Point of information, that's all.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, thank you. Is there anybody else from the public who would wish to comment on this item at this time?
I'm
Please.
Bill Goff, I live at 591 Maple Avenue, and I just have a question for the applicant. How many of these poles are they gonna put up? You're gonna have one on Niles, you go less than a quarter of a mile and put another one up. I mean, how many more are they gonna put up in San Bruno? They're not that far apart, from Niles down to where Cherry Park is. You're only going over Genevan, and then you don't even get to the next cross street, and they're putting another one up. I was just wondering, is there gonna be a stop to this someplace, or you're gonna have to keep coming in there all the time and talking about going before the planning commission to put up another one someplace else? So it's just an ongoing thing, and I'm just trying to figure out how many of these poles they anticipate putting.
I think we've asked that question. Well, that's a good question, and I don't think that we actually have a
number.
rock solid answer on that. Is that correct, from the representatives of T-Mobile?
Yeah.
We don't know?
Through the chair, I think their answer was they'd have to go back and check with the office.
Okay. Anybody else from the public wish to comment on this? Okay, seeing none, I'm closing this one. Bringing it back to the commission for discussion.
Just one quick question, I wasn't gonna say anything on this one, but what is Exhibit H? Can I ask the applicant, I mean, why is it in this one package and not in the other package? Exhibit H is the blue one.
This was a request by staff for us to show what it would look like if we had proposed ground equipment on the ground rather
Okay.
than on the pole. And I believe for the 1736 Niles, there wasn't, the right-of-way was limited to the sidewalk. I believe that was the reason why we couldn't locate a cabinet. It would have to be on private property.
So you couldn't put the same size equipment that's on the pole on the ground?
No, that equipment is designed to be placed on poles.
So that same exact equipment, you couldn't just mount it differently on the ground? It's gotta be 7 feet up in the air. Maybe I should ask an engineer, one of the engineers, 'cause it's not fair to ask you, I'm sorry. I mean, I can't understand why you can't put 7 feet of
understand
equipment
completely. I
there,
was gonna ask
but you
that
can't put it on the
question
ground. I mean, you're not just trying to make this picture look real bad so the other picture looks better?
No, we have equipment that we can put on the ground. It's smaller than the one in the picture, but it's not the one on the pole.
Okay,
The
then
one
why
on the-
why wasn't the smaller one, if we were asked to stealth it, to make it look better and look, the best you can make it look, why would you take a bigger equipment and put it here?
Because it would require the same space, like the smaller equipment that we put on the ground, it will require the enclosure to provide the cooling and the interconnect units to be placed. So even if the equipment is smaller, but it will occupy the same space, that larger equipment is occupied.
But you just said you could put smaller equipment than what's in this picture?
The equipment itself is smaller, but it needs an enclosure to provide the cooling and the interconnect units as well.
Okay,
But the ones on the pole, it's designed to be that way.
okay, that's just curious. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of the commissioners, from the commissioners?
Yeah, through the chair.
Commissioner Samut?
I'm just kind of curious about Grundy Park. I mean, just in terms of alternative site analysis, it looks as though Grundy Park would meet the requirements other than perhaps financial. I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting by reading this. None of the other sites meet your coverage, but that particular site does. And we didn't seem to have an alternative to choose from in this particular package. Can you tell me why?
Grundy Park is will meet the coverage objective. It requires a new pole with equipment on the ground. For that reason, it wasn't selected because we can utilize an existing pole with equipment on the pole. So that was a better, in T-Mobile's opinion, a better design than a new pole in Grundy Park.
Yeah, it would have been, from my perspective, it would have been nice, since this meets your service requirements, if you had given us some kind of analysis on this particular site as well, with maybe some mock-ups, we could take a look at that as an option, other than just stuff hanging on a pole in the street.
Staff didn't request any of that information. I mean, we can certainly provide that information if you want.
Yeah, I would like to see it,
Okay.
sure. Thanks.
Through the chair,
Commissioner Johnson?
I just have to make a comment when you indicate that staff didn't provide it. When a project is being proposed and you want something to carry through, it would be as a professional, I would do everything possible to present everything I possibly can, to give options, to look at the whole picture. But when it feels like staff didn't ask for it, it feels a bit targeting. It feels a bit it's their responsibility to ask you those questions. I think the responsibility really falls on the applicant to be sure the project is moved forward in the very best possible way. So if you can just take that into consideration, I just needed to make that comment.
Understood.
Thank you. Any other, excuse me, any other questions, comments from the commissioners?
Through the chair.
Commissioner Marshall?
Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion that we deny use permit 0924 with the staff to come back with the findings at the next planning commission meeting as discussed, without prejudice.
So we have a motion for denial. Could you restate that again, just so I'm perfectly clear on what that motion is?
Motion to deny the project without prejudice, with the findings to be brought to us at the next meeting.
Okay, there's the motion.
Yeah, I'll second that.
There's a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
I think we might need a,
Can we roll call here?
thank you.
Commissioner Samut?
No. Or aye.
Aye. All right. Commissioner Marshall?
Aye.
Vice Chair Peterson?
No.
Chair Chase?
No.
Commissioner Biassadi?
Aye.
Commissioner Mishra?
No.
Commissioner Johnson?
No.
So motion fails.
Okay, so we're back to square one. Still
Through the
need
chair,
Commissioner Peterson.
I make a motion to continue this to March 16th meeting.
There's a motion.
Second.
Do it. There we go. Motion and a second on the floor. You just want to do a roll call on this to make it easier on us?
On the question, I'm sorry,
No,
Commissioner
I was just
Samut.
gonna ask if the motion maker would, add that they put, that there be some analysis for, the Grundy Park site as well.
Yeah, I'll take that amendment.
Okay, so the motion has been amended.
Uh,
Is there a second?
Through the chair, before I let that go, I'd like to also add that the Grundy Park analysis include a pole with equipment in the air and on the ground, both alternatives.
Okay. So that's the motion. The individual, the commissioner who seconded that motion, are they willing to second that?
Yes.
Thank you.
All
So
right.
there's a motion, a second on the floor.
And we'll take a roll call vote.
Very good.
Commissioner Samut?
Aye.
Commissioner Marshall?
No.
Vice Chair Peterson?
Aye.
Chair Chase?
Aye.
Commissioner Biassadi?
Aye.
Commissioner Mishra?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-1.
Okay.
Item is continued
Through
till
the
March
chair.
16th.
Yes,
Chair,
Commissioner
just I'd like to make a comment that on those bullet points that we're gonna maybe give them, the 5 items, just pretend like you're walking out your front door, and what would you wanna see in front of your house? That's my whole argument of this whole thing. Just pretend like you're walking out your front door living in a suburb of a big city, not a big city, in a suburb. What would you want in front of your house? Okay? Thank you.
And through the chair,
Commissioner Peterson.
I'd also like to make a comment to T-Mobile. This motion, in my view, is an expression of interest of the commission in reaching an agreement with you. And when you do go to the site, take a look around, see if anything else comes to mind. I went completely around the housing in that area. And you might think of something that we didn't really talk about here tonight. I wasn't looking for a whole lot of ideas to come to mind when I was doing that, or I might have had some more. I thank you for your attention.
Yeah, I would like to thank you as well. I know it's been a arduous journey here, but I think everybody's got the focus of what we want to do best for the community and allowing T-Mobile to have the coverage that they need as well. So thank you very much.